I raised her for 18 years, but she said, I'm not her real dad, and kicked me out of her wedding. I stayed silent, handed her an envelope, then walked away. The event hall went completely silent as she opened the envelope with trembling hands, and when she looked up at me, her eyes were filled with tears and something else. The devastating weight of understanding that she had made the biggest mistake of her life. My name is Roberto. I'm 52 years old, and for 18 years I thought I had built a family. I met Marina when her daughter Camila was only 5 years old. She was a shy little girl with big eyes who would hide behind her mother's legs every time I came over. Her biological father, Hector, had abandoned them when Camila was barely 2 years old. He never paid child support, never called on her birthday, never sent a Christmas card. He just disappeared as if they had never existed. The first few months were tough. Camila saw me as an intruder in her world of two, but I didn't give up. Every day after work I'd stop by her school and take her to the park. I'd buy her chocolate ice cream, her favorite, and sit patiently while she played on the swings without saying a word to me. Marina warned me not to force things, that the girl needed time to heal from her father's betrayal. The moment everything changed came 6 months later. Camila fell off her bike in front of our house and scraped her knees. I ran to her. I carried her in my arms while she cried, cleaned her wounds with infinite care, and put on butterfly-patterned Band-Aids. That night, for the first time when I tucked her into bed, she called me Daddy Roberto. My heart expanded so much I thought it would explode. I married Marina when Camila was 7. The girl insisted on being the ring bearer at our wedding. She wore a white dress with pink bows that she chose herself. And when the priest asked if anyone objected to our marriage, she yelled in her high-pitched voice, "Nobody. This is my daddy, Roberto." All the guests laughed tenderly. I cried with happiness. I legally adopted Camila when she was 9. Hector had signed the papers without even reading them, probably relieved to lose any legal responsibility. The day the judge declared the adoption official, Camila hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "Now you're my daddy forever," she whispered in my ear. I promised her I would never abandon her, that I'd always be there for her, no matter what. For the next few years, I was the one who was at every school play. I was the one who taught her to ride a bike without training wheels. I was the one who stayed up all night when she had a high fever. I was the one who helped her with her math homework, who comforted her after her first heartbreak, who took her to find her prom dress. I worked as a manager at a hardware store, a modest but stable job. We weren't rich, but we never lacked for anything. I saved every penny I could for years for Camila's college fund. While my coworkers went out to bars or bought new cars, I saved that money religiously. Marina also contributed with her salary as a dental secretary. But my priority was always to secure our daughter's future. Camila studied graphic design at the State University. I paid her tuition, her books, her apartment near campus. Every month, I transferred money for her expenses. She would call me constantly, "Dad, thanks for everything. I don't know what I'd do without you." Those words made every sacrifice worth it. She met her boyfriend Sebastian in her senior year of college, a young man from a wealthy family whose father owned a chain of restaurants. From the beginning, I noticed Sebastian had a condescending attitude towards me. He'd look at me with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, as if I were the service staff. But Camila seemed in love, so I kept my reservations to myself. The relationship between Camila and me started to cool subtly after she began spending more time with Sebastian's family. She came home less. Her calls became more sporadic. When she mentioned an anecdote from her childhood, she would sometimes correct herself. "Well, you're not really my father, but you know what I mean." Every time she said it, it felt like a knife twisting in my gut. Marina told me it was normal, that Camila was growing up, establishing her independence. I wanted to believe it. I needed to believe it. A year ago, Sebastian proposed to her in a fancy restaurant. Camila called me excitedly to tell me, "Dad, I'm getting married." Her joy was contagious, and I swallowed the worry I felt. I offered to help with the wedding expenses, although I knew Sebastian's family would probably cover everything. "Don't worry, Dad," she told me. "Sebastian's family insists on paying for everything. I just need you to be there with me on the most important day of my life." The months of preparations were strange. Camila rarely consulted me on wedding decisions. Marina was the one who got the updates. I assumed it was normal that brides focused more on their mothers during these processes. I didn't want to be the meddling father-in-law. 3 weeks before the wedding, Camila came home for dinner. She seemed nervous, pushing food around her plate without really eating. Marina finally asked what was wrong. "There's something I need to tell you," Camila began. Without making eye contact, Hector contacted me 6 months ago. I felt the floor disappear from under my feet. Marina dropped her fork. Hector, the man who had abandoned them almost 20 years ago, the coward who never paid a cent of child support, the ghost I had replaced as a father. What? Was all Marina could articulate. He messaged me on social media. Camila continued, now speaking faster. He explained that when he left me, he was going through a terrible depression, that he made mistakes, that he always thought of me, but was too ashamed to reach out. He's been in therapy. He has a new life, and he wants to meet me. And what did you say to him? I asked, my voice coming out sharper than I intended. I met him, Camila admitted, finally looking at me several times. He's different now. He's sorry. He cries when he talks about all the lost time. He showed me pictures he kept of me as a baby. He has a good job. He's married again now. He has 2 little kids, my half-siblings. The silence that followed was deafening. Marina had tears running down her cheeks. I was too stunned to react. Why didn't you tell us? Marina finally spoke. Because I knew how you'd react, Camila answered defensively. Especially you, Daddy Roberto. I know you hate him. I don't hate him, I said calmly, although my heart was beating uncontrollably. I was just there when he wasn't for 18 years. I know, Camila said. But her tone didn't sound as grateful as I expected. And I'll always be grateful for that. But he's my biological father. I have a right to know him, don't I? The word biological dropped like a bomb in the middle of the table. For all these years, she had never made that distinction. I was just her dad. Now, suddenly there were categories: biological father, adoptive father, as if there were levels of legitimacy to the love I had given her. Of course you have a right, I replied, forcing my voice to stay neutral. I just wish you had trusted us enough to tell us. Marina took my hand under the table, squeezing it tightly. She was also processing this silent betrayal. These 6 months of secret meetings with a man who had left her alone with a baby. There's more, Camila continued, and my stomach sank even further. Hector wants to come to the wedding and I told him yes. What? Marina stood up, so abruptly her chair fell backward. How could you even consider that? It's my wedding, Mom, Camila replied, also standing up. I have the right to invite whoever I want. He's my father. I'm your father. The words came out of my mouth before I could stop them. I was at every birthday. I took you to school for 12 years. I paid for your college. I taught you to drive. I dried your tears when that idiot Daniel broke your heart in high school. Camila looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Coldness. That doesn't erase the fact that Hector is my biological father. We share blood. That means something. The conversation ended badly. Camila left, slamming the door. Marina cried all night. I sat in the darkness of our room, feeling as if someone had ripped my heart out of my chest. The next few days were tense. Camila sent short messages to Marina about wedding details, but she barely spoke to me. When I tried to call her to talk, she let it go to voicemail. When I stopped by her apartment to try to fix things, she told me she was busy with Sebastian and closed the door in my face. Marina tried to mediate, but Camila was adamant. Hector was coming to the wedding, and that was final. The man who had never paid a cent of child support, who had never been present for any important moment in Camila's life, would now have a seat at her wedding. A week before the big day, I received a call from an unknown number. I hesitated before answering, but something made me respond. Roberto. The voice was male, hesitant. It's Hector. Hector Vargas. My hand gripped the phone so tightly I thought I'd break it. What do you want? I want to talk to you man to man about Camila. Every fiber of my being was screaming at me to hang up, but curiosity was stronger. Talk. Look, I know you hate me, Hector began. And you have every right. I was a coward. I abandoned my daughter and Marina when they needed me most. There's no excuse for that. You're right. There isn't. But I've changed. He continued. I've worked on myself. I've been in therapy for 3 years. I'm trying to be a better person. And when Camila contacted me, well, it was like God gave me a second chance. Camila contacted you. I repeated slowly. She had told me he had contacted her first. There was a pause. That's not important. The important thing is that I'm here now and I want to be a part of my daughter's life. For 18 years. You didn't want to be a part of anything. I replied, why now? Because I'm ready now. Now I can be the father she deserves. The laugh that came from my throat was bitter. The father she deserves. Interesting choice of words. Do you know what Camila deserves? She deserves someone who was there when she was 5 and crying because all her classmates had dads except for her. She deserves someone who took her to the hospital when she broke her arm playing softball. She deserves someone who stayed up all night helping her with her science project so she wouldn't fail. You did a great job with her, Hector admitted. And I'm grateful to you for that. But now I can take over. Take over. The blood was boiling in my veins. This isn't a relay race, Hector. This is a person's life. My daughter. Our daughter, he corrected me. Biologically, she's mine. Those words. Again, that implicit hierarchy, as if biology trumped love, sacrifice, constant presence. You know what? I said finally, come to the wedding. Enjoy your moment of glory getting back the daughter you abandoned now that she's raised and educated thanks to my effort. But don't expect me to shake your hand and wish you luck. I hung up before he could answer. My hands were shaking. Marina appeared at the door with a worried expression. It was him. I nodded. He wanted my blessing to reconnect with Camila, as if he had any right to ask for it. Marina sat down next to me. What are we going to do? We're going to go to that wedding, I replied. We're going to smile. We're going to behave with dignity, and we're going to hope that Camila eventually realizes who was really there for her. But deep down, a part of me knew that something had irrevocably changed. The little girl who called me Daddy Roberto with adoration had become a woman who made distinctions about blood and biology. The days before the wedding passed in a haze. Camila finally called me to confirm logistical details. The conversation was cold, transactional. She told me Hector would be sitting in the front row on the bride's family side. I would be in the second row. The front row is for immediate parents, Camila explained in a clinical tone. You understand, right? I didn't understand anything, but I said yes because I had no energy to fight. The night before the wedding, I couldn't sleep. I stayed up looking at Camila's photo album. There she was on her first day of school with her pink backpack almost bigger than her, holding my hand tightly. There she was at her high school graduation, hugging me while she cried with happiness. There she was on her 15th birthday blowing out the candles while I held the cake. In none of those photos was Hector. In none of those moments was he present. But tomorrow he would have the place of honor. While I watched from behind, Marina found me crying silently over the album at 3 a.m. She didn't say anything. She just held me while my heart broke into pieces. The wedding day dawned bright and sunny, ironically. I put on my best suit, the only one I had, bought 5 years ago for a cousin's wedding. Marina wore a blue dress we had bought specifically for this occasion. We looked at each other in the mirror before leaving. We can still not go, Marina whispered. No, I replied, straightening my tie. She's our daughter. No matter what. The event hall was impressive. Sebastian's family had clearly spared no expense. There were flowers everywhere, elaborate centerpieces, a decoration that probably cost more than my annual salary. The guests were starting to arrive, all looking elegant and prosperous. And then I saw him, Hector Vargas, standing near the entrance, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my car. He had kept himself in shape. His hair barely showed any gray. Next to him was a woman much younger than Marina, presumably his new wife and 2 small children. Our eyes met. He smiled, an awkward smile, and raised his hand in a greeting gesture. I ignored him completely and kept walking with Marina to our seats. Second row behind Hector and his new perfect family. While I waited for the ceremony to begin, I watched Hector interact with other guests. He introduced himself as the father of the bride, with an ease that sickened me. No one corrected him. No one mentioned he had been absent for 2 decades. The music started and everyone stood up. Camila appeared at the end of the aisle radiant in her white dress. My heart swelled with pride despite the pain I felt. She was beautiful, and for a moment I forgot all the resentment and just saw the little girl I had raised turned into a stunning woman. But then I saw that on Camila's arm was not me, not Hector either. It was Sebastian's father, Don Ricardo Molina, a portly man with silver hair and a permanent expression of superiority. Apparently, Camila had decided that neither her biological father nor her adoptive father deserved that honor. She had chosen the man who represented money and social status. Marina squeezed my hand so tightly I felt my bones would crack. I glanced at Hector. He also seemed taken aback, although he tried to maintain a neutral expression. At least in that we were the same. We had both been rejected. The ceremony was beautiful, but every word from the priest about family and love pierced me like knives. When it was time for the vows, Sebastian spoke in a firm voice about how Camila had lit up his world. Camila responded with rehearsed words about having found her true home in the Molina family. True home. As if the 18 years under my roof had been just a temporary shelter. The reception started with the typical cocktail hour while the bride and groom took photos. Marina and I stayed near the bar drinking champagne we didn't taste. Several of Marina's relatives came over to greet us, all carefully avoiding mentioning the elephant in the room. My absence from the traditional father's role. My sister-in-law Teresa, however, did not have that tact. "Roberto, I can't believe Camila did this to you," she said bluntly. "After everything you did for her, you were more of a father than that scoundrel over there showing off." "Teresa," Marina interrupted her with a warning tone. "It's true," Teresa continued, raising her voice enough for some nearby people to turn around. "Hector Vargas never gave a dime for that girl. He was never at any birthday, any graduation, nothing. And now he shows up as if nothing happened. It's shameless." "That's enough," I said firmly. "This is Camila's day. We're not going to ruin it." But Teresa had planted a seed. I could see the guests whispering, looking towards Hector and then towards me. The truth, apparently, was hard to ignore. The food was served, and we were seated at a table far from the center. Hector and his family were at the head table, next to Sebastian's parents and other important relatives. The hierarchy was clear and painful. During dinner, Camila made her rounds through the tables thanking the guests. When she reached ours, she hugged me briefly. "Thanks for coming, Daddy Roberto," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I wouldn't have missed it for anything," I replied. And it was true. Despite the pain, I needed to be there. "Hector wants to talk to you," Camila whispered. "He says he tried to call you, but you didn't answer." "I have nothing to talk to him about." Her expression hardened. "Please, don't make this difficult. Just try to get along with him." For me. Before I could answer, someone called her from another table, and she walked away. Marina looked at me with tears in her eyes. How is it possible that she doesn't see what she's doing? Are you blinded by the illusion of having a perfect biological father? I replied, "Give her time. Reality will eventually catch up with her." But how much time and how much more of this could I endure? The moment for toasts arrived. First, Sebastian's father spoke, a pompous speech about family lineages and traditions. Then Sebastian's best friend spoke, telling funny anecdotes from their college years. And then, to my absolute surprise, the master of ceremonies announced. "And now a few words from the father of the bride, Hector Vargas." I felt the air leave my lungs. Hector stood up, adjusted his expensive tie, and took the microphone with a confident smile. "Good evening, everyone," he began. "I know many of you are surprised to see me here. I know I haven't been a part of Camila's life for a long time, and that's something I'll have to live with for the rest of my life." He paused dramatically. I could see he had rehearsed this speech carefully. "But I want you to know," he continued, "that during all those years of absence I never stopped thinking about my daughter, I never stopped loving her. And when she had the generosity and noble heart to give me a second chance, I knew I had raised an extraordinary woman." He had raised. The audacity of those words hit me like a punch. "Camila." Hector turned to the head table where she was sitting. "I thank you for forgiving me, for allowing me to be here on your special day, for giving me the chance to be the father I always should have been. I promise you that from now on I will never fail you again." The guests applauded. Some were even moved. I was frozen in my seat watching this parody of redemption, this rewriting of history where the villain became the hero. Marina stood up abruptly. "I need some air," she muttered and walked quickly towards the venue's gardens. I followed her, leaving behind the applause that was still going on. I found her on a secluded bench, sobbing with her face in her hands. I sat down next to her and hugged her while she cried. "I can't believe she's allowing this," she said between sobs. "I can't believe our daughter is so blind, so ungrateful." "She's confused," I said, although I wasn't sure I believed it myself. "Hector is new. He's exciting. He represents a fantasy she's always had. She'll get over it." "And if she doesn't get over it," Marina looked at me with red eyes, "and if she really believes he's a better father than you, that these 18 years meant nothing compared to sharing DNA, I had no answer for that, because that same question was tormenting me too. We stayed outside for several minutes until we heard footsteps approaching. It was Teresa again with an urgent expression. You have to come back inside. Camila is asking for you. She's going to make an announcement. We returned to the hall just as Camila took the microphone. Sebastian was by her side, holding her hand with a proud expression. Hector watched from his table with a satisfied smile. I want to thank you all for being here on the happiest day of my life, Camila began. Her voice sounded clear and confident. Today I not only marry the love of my life, but I also celebrate another important reunion. My father, Hector Vargas, has returned to my life after many years, the crowd murmured. Some nodded understandingly. Others looked at Marina and me with uncomfortable expressions. I know some of you are wondering about my relationship with Roberto Castillo, Camila continued. And my stomach sank upon hearing my full name. So formal, so distant. Roberto was an important figure during my upbringing. He was present when my biological father couldn't be, and I'm grateful to him for that. It was past tense, as if everything we had lived through together was already dead history. But today, Camila took a deep breath. I want to acknowledge my real father, my biological father, the man who gave me life. Hector, thank you for coming back. Thank you for wanting to be a part of my future. Hector stood up, walked over to Camila, and hugged her. The photographers captured the moment. The guests applauded again, and I felt something inside me break for good. Marina got up again, this time walking directly towards the exit. I followed her, but before we could reach the door, I heard Camila's voice over the microphone. Roberto, Marina, are you leaving so soon? We stopped. All eyes were on us. Slowly we turned around. Camila was looking at us from the stage with an expression that was hard to decipher. I thought you'd want to stay for the rest of the celebration. We're tired, I said simply. I understand, Camila replied. But there was something in her tone, something challenging. Before you go, there's something else I want to announce. My heart started beating faster. Marina squeezed my arm. Hector and I have been talking a lot these past few months, Camila continued. And we've decided it's time to make official what's already true in our hearts. I'm going to start using the Vargas last name again. I'm going to go back to being Camila Vargas, as I always should have been. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the waiters stopped moving. Camila. Marina's voice sounded broken. What are you saying? I'm saying. Camila lifted her chin with determination, that I want to reclaim my true identity. Roberto, you were very generous to adopt me when I was a child. And I appreciate everything you did. But I'm an adult now, and I want to carry my real father's last name. Real father. Those words echoed in the hall like a gunshot. I could feel the gazes of all the guests, some horrified, others simply curious about the drama unfolding before them. Camila, think it through. Teresa intervened from her table. Roberto raised you since you were 5. He paid for your education. He was there for every important moment of your life, and I'm grateful for that, Camila replied coldly. But that doesn't change the fact that Hector is my biological father. Blood means something, family means something. You're right, I said finally, my voice coming out stronger than I expected. Family does mean something, but family isn't defined by blood, Camila. It's defined by who's there when everything falls apart, by who stays when it's hard, not by who shows up when everything's already fixed. Roberto, please. Hector approached with his hands raised in a conciliatory gesture. Let's not make this ugly. I understand your pain, but Camila has the right to make her own decisions. Don't talk to me about pain, I snapped at him. You have no idea what pain is. Pain is working double shifts to pay for your daughter's braces. Pain is staying up all night comforting her when her heart is broken. Pain is sacrificing your own dreams so she can achieve hers. You know nothing about that kind of pain. Daddy Roberto, please. Camila came down from the small stage and walked towards me. Don't make this harder than it already is. I'm just trying to honor my truth. Your truth, I repeated bitterly. And what is that truth, Camila? That biology is more important than love. That 18 years of dedication are worth less than sharing DNA. It's not that. Her eyes filled with tears, but there was determination in them. It's that I finally have the chance to know my real father. Why can't you be happy for me? Because that man, I pointed at Hector, is not your father. He's the sperm donor who conceived you and then abandoned you. I'm the one who changed your diapers, who taught you to read, who held you when you had nightmares. I'm the one who was there. And that's why you'll always have a special place in my heart, Camila said. But her tone was condescending, as if she were talking to a child having a tantrum. But Hector is my father, and I need you to accept that. Marina finally erupted. Accept? You're asking us to accept how you publicly humiliate us, how you erase 18 years of our life together as if it were nothing, how you change your last name as if Roberto never meant anything. Mom, you don't understand. Camila began. Oh, I understand perfectly. Marina interrupted her voice trembling with rage. I understand that you're ashamed of us, that now that you're marrying into money and have a biological father who seems successful, you no longer need the simple people who raised you. We're an embarrassment to your new fancy life. That's not fair. Camila protested, but there was guilt in her eyes. Not fair. Marina laughed without humor. I'll tell you what's not fair. It's not fair that Roberto worked himself to exhaustion to give you everything you needed while that man, she pointed at Hector, never paid a single peso of child support. It's not fair that we were there for every illness, every tear, every joy, while he lived his life without a care. And it's definitely not fair that you're now rewarding him and punishing us. The hall was completely silent. Sebastian finally approached Camila, putting his arm around her. I think we should all calm down, he said in a soft but firm voice. This is a day of celebration, not of fights. You're right, I said, suddenly feeling a deep exhaustion. It's a day of celebration. Celebrate your wedding. Celebrate your family reunion. We're leaving. Roberto, wait. Hector's voice stopped me. It doesn't have to be like this. We can be civilized. We can share. Share. I interrupted him. There's nothing to share. You want her, you can have her. But let it be clear, when she needs something real, when life gets tough and she needs someone who really knows her, who loves her unconditionally, don't look for me. Because this betrayal, this public humiliation, I'm not going to forget. See, Camila exclaimed. This is exactly what I was talking about. It's always about you and your hurt feelings. It's never about what I need. Her words hit me like a hammer. For all these years, every decision I made was with her in mind. Every sacrifice was for her well-being. And now she was accusing me of being selfish. You're right, I said with deadly calm. I've always been too selfish with you. That's why I gave up buying a new car to pay for your college. That's why I worked on holidays so you could go on vacation with your friends. That's why I saved for years for your college fund while I drove that same old car. All because of my selfishness. Camila turned pale. Several guests exchanged uncomfortable glances. The truth of my sacrifice was being exposed, and it wasn't a pretty picture for her. I didn't know, she started to say. No, you didn't know. I interrupted her, because you never wanted to know. You never asked where the money came from. You never questioned how we could afford everything. You just assumed it was your right, that you deserved it. Well, let me tell you something, Camila. Love isn't a right. Sacrifice isn't an obligation, and loyalty is definitely not bought with shared blood. Roberto, you can't talk to my daughter like that. Hector stepped forward with a threatening tone. Your daughter. I laughed bitterly. Now she's your daughter. How convenient. When she was in diapers, she wasn't your daughter. When she was crying for her absent father, she wasn't your daughter. When she needed financial and emotional support. For 18 years, she wasn't your daughter, but now that she's educated, well-married, and presentable, now she's your daughter. I was a fool, Hector admitted. I don't deny it, but I'm trying to make amends. You can't make amends for 18 years with 6 months of pleasant conversations, I replied. You can't buy forgiveness by showing up at her wedding in an expensive suit and pretty words. Fatherhood doesn't work that way. Daddy Roberto, please. Camila approached me with tears streaming down her cheeks. I don't want to fight with you. I love you. I'll always love you. But I also love Hector. Why can't I have both? Because you asked me to choose, I said softly, feeling my own tears threatening to fall. When you decided to change your last name, when you gave him the place of honor, when you relegated me to the second row, you asked me to choose between my dignity and your love, and I choose my dignity. That's unfair. Camila sobbed. Life is unfair, I replied. I learned that when the little girl I raised, whom I loved as my own, told me I wasn't her real father. You'll learn it when you discover that the fantasy of having a perfect father doesn't survive reality. I took an envelope from my inside pocket. It had been there all night waiting for the right moment, or perhaps the wrong moment. I wasn't sure anymore. Before I go, I said, my voice surprisingly firm. There's something you need to know about your real father. Camila took the envelope with trembling hands. What is this? Open it. She broke the seal and took out several documents. As her eyes scanned the pages, I saw her expression change from confusion to shock. From shock to horror. What does it say? Sebastian asked, coming closer to read over her shoulder. Hector turned pale. Roberto, don't. Oh yes, I replied. It's time for everyone to know the full truth. They're lawsuits, Camila stammered, looking up from the documents. Lawsuits for child support that were never paid. Court orders, collection letters. Her voice rose with each word. Hector Vargas, the man who had given that emotional speech about redemption and second chances, was now looking at the floor, unable to face his daughter. There's more, I said, my voice cutting through the tense silence. Page 4. Camila turned the pages with trembling fingers. When she reached the indicated page, her face lost all color. No, this can't be true. It's a financial report. I explained for the benefit of all present who were watching the scene with horrified fascination. During the years Hector was missing, supposedly in depression, supposedly without resources to help his daughter, he had 2 bank accounts under different names. One contained substantial savings. The other received regular deposits from his job as a luxury car salesman in another city. You lied, Camila whispered, looking at Hector. You told me you were broke. That's why you couldn't pay child support. Camila, let me explain, Hector began. Explain what? Camila's voice broke. That you had money, but you preferred to spend it on yourself rather than on your daughter. That you lied to the courts about your financial situation. I was young. Hector defended himself weakly. I was scared. I wasn't ready to be a father. But you were ready to get married again and have 2 more children? Marina pointed out with a steely voice. Apparently you just weren't ready for Camila, specifically. Sebastian took the documents from Camila's hands, reading them with an increasingly dark expression. This says you evaded almost $50,000 in child support payments over 18 years, that you changed jobs multiple times specifically to avoid wage garnishment. $50,000. Camila staggered. Sebastian held her. But you told me you were barely surviving. That's why you couldn't be present. People change, Hector tried. I'm not that man now. You're right. I intervened. You're not that man. That man was at least honest about his cowardice. You're worse. You're a liar who took advantage of Camila's longing for a father to rewrite your own history as a victim. How did you get this? Hector asked, pointing at the documents with a trembling hand. I have my contacts, I replied. When Camila mentioned you had reconnected, I hired a private investigator. It cost a good bit of money I couldn't really afford, but I needed to know who my daughter was dealing with. I needed to protect her, even if she no longer wanted my protection. Camila looked at me with huge, tear-filled eyes. You did that for me. Of course I did, because that's what real fathers do. They protect their children even when those children reject them. There's more information in there. I continued, pointing at the envelope. Like the fact that Hector didn't contact you on social media 6 months ago. You contacted him a year ago, and he ignored you for 6 months until he found out you were marrying into money. Then, suddenly he had this attack of conscience and wanted to reconnect. Is that true? Camila turned to Hector. You lied to me about who contacted who. Hector didn't answer. His silence was all the confirmation she needed. There's also the little detail, I added, that Hector borrowed money from Camila 3 weeks ago, $5,000 for a medical emergency for his wife. Right, Camila? Right, Hector? Hector's wife, who had remained silent all this time, stood up abruptly. What medical emergency? I'm perfectly fine. All the pieces fell into place on Camila's face. The horror of understanding hit her like a wave. You were using me, she whispered all this time. The emotional conversations, the tears, the promises. You just wanted money. No, daughter, you don't understand. Hector tried to approach, but Sebastian stood in his way. I think she understands perfectly, Sebastian said with a cold voice. I understand that my wife has very good judgment for business, but apparently terrible judgment for people. Sebastian, Camila began. No, he interrupted her, but not cruelly. Honey, this man manipulated you, used you, and in the process you hurt the people who truly loved you. Camila turned to me, her face contorted with tears. Daddy Roberto, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I didn't understand. I wanted to run to her, hug her, tell her everything was okay, but Marina put a hand on my arm, stopping me. Now you know, I said simply. Now you know what fatherhood really means. It's not about blood or biology. It's about showing up day after day, even when it's hard. It's about sacrifice without expecting anything in return. It's about love that can't be bought or sold. Please, Camila sobbed. Please, forgive me. I was a fool. I was cruel. You were human. Marina interrupted her, her voice softer now. You made a mistake, honey. A terrible mistake that hurt us deeply, but we all make mistakes. Can you forgive me? Camila asked hopefully. I looked at Marina. She looked at me. In that silent exchange, we made a decision. Eventually, I replied, but not today. Today we need space. We need to heal from this wound you caused. And you need to learn that actions have consequences. I love you, Camila cried. I love you so much. We know, Marina said. And we love you too. But love isn't always enough. Love also needs respect, loyalty, consideration. Hector tried to slip away towards the exit, but Sebastian's voice stopped him. Stop. Right there. The $5,000 you took from my wife. I want it back tomorrow. Or I'm calling my lawyer. Hector nodded miserably and left the hall, followed by his furious wife and their confused children. The fall of his fantasy of redemption had been complete and public. I turned to Camila one last time. I wish you happiness in your marriage, Camila. I hope Sebastian treats you well, because he seems to be a good man. And when you're ready, when you've reflected on what happened here, we'll be willing to talk. But for now, we need distance. Marina and I walked towards the exit with our heads held high. Behind us, we heard Camila's cries and the murmur of the guests processing the drama they had just witnessed. In the parking lot, Marina finally collapsed into my arms. Did we do the right thing? I don't know, I admitted. But it was the only thing we could do without losing our dignity. As we drove home in silence, my phone started ringing. It was Teresa, then my brother-in-law, then several other relatives, all expressing support, outrage at what had happened, promises to talk to Camila. I turned off the phone. Tonight, I just needed silence. Tomorrow we would deal with the consequences. 6 months after the wedding, my life had found a different, quieter rhythm. Marina and I had moved to a smaller apartment, more suited to our real needs, now that we didn't have to maintain a large house for a family that no longer existed as it once did. The change was liberating in ways I hadn't expected. Camila tried to contact us countless times during the first few weeks. Calls, messages, emails, all filled with apologies and pleas for forgiveness. Marina would occasionally reply with brief messages. We need time. I didn't reply to anything. Silence was my way of healing. Hector never returned the $5,000. Sebastian had to legally pursue him for months to get the money back. According to Teresa, who kept in regular contact with Camila, despite everything, Hector disappeared again shortly after the wedding. He blocked Camila's number, stopped answering her messages, vanished as completely as he had 23 years ago. History repeating itself. Camila, I learned, fell into a deep depression. Not because of the loss of Hector, Teresa told me, but because of the devastating realization of what she had destroyed. Sebastian turned out to be a better man than I expected. He stayed by her side, supported her, even encouraged her to seek therapy to process everything that had happened. She talks about you in every session, Teresa told me during one of our phone conversations. She says she finally understands what everything you did meant, that now, when she thinks about having her own children, she realizes the level of sacrifice that true parenthood requires. I'm glad she understands, I replied, and I was sincere, but that doesn't erase the pain. I know she knows it too. In the 4th month after the wedding, Camila stopped trying to contact us directly. Instead, she started sending handwritten letters. Not emails, but real letters written by hand on paper. The first one arrived in a cream-colored envelope with my name written in her familiar handwriting. Marina found me staring at the unopened envelope. Are you going to read it? I don't know. Maybe you should, she suggested gently. Not for her, but for you. To know what your heart says when you read her words. I opened the letter that night. It was long, heartbreaking, full of self-reflection and genuine remorse. Camila described how therapy had helped her understand her behavioral patterns, how she had idealized Hector because he represented something unattainable, something that didn't require the hard work of a real relationship. She acknowledged that she had been cruel, selfish, blind to everything that truly mattered. Dad? She wrote using that simple title without qualifiers. I spent so much time looking for my biological father that I didn't realize my real father had been there all along. Not the man who gave me life, but the man who taught me how to live it. You taught me about responsibility when you made me return the money I stole from your wallet when I was 8. You taught me about perseverance when you took me to softball practice every weekend, even though I wasn't good. You taught me about unconditional love every day of my life. And I threw it all away for a fantasy. I cried reading that letter. Marina cried too when I read it aloud to her, but I still wasn't ready to answer. The letters kept coming, one every 2 weeks, like clockwork, never demanding a response, never pushing. Just honest words from a woman facing the consequences of her actions. It was the 6th letter that finally broke my resistance. In it, Camila described a recent moment. She had gone to the supermarket and saw a father with his little daughter. The man was wearing stained work clothes, clearly coming straight from his job. The little girl wanted an expensive toy, and the father was patiently explaining that they couldn't buy it that month, but that they could save up together to buy it later. The little girl had smiled, hugged her father, and said, "It's okay, Daddy. You're worth more than any toy." At that moment, Camila wrote, I realized that was me. That little girl was me at 7 when you wanted to buy me a bike, but money was tight. And you were that father who found a way to get it anyway, by working extra shifts for a month. How could I forget that? How could I forget all those moments? That night, I told Marina, I think I'm ready. Ready for what? To talk to her. Not to forgive her completely yet, but to start. Marina smiled through her tears. Me too. We invited Camila for coffee at a neutral place. When she arrived, she looked thinner, with deep dark circles under her eyes. But there was something different in her expression. Humility, understanding, maturity gained through pain. We didn't hug right away. We sat down, ordered coffee, and for several minutes no one spoke. Finally, Camila broke the silence. I know I'm sorry isn't enough, she began. I know I can't undo what I did, but I need you to know that every day I live with the weight of my actions, and every day I work to be a better person, someone who deserves the love you gave me. Love isn't deserved, I said softly. It's given, and we never stopped loving you, Camila, not even in our most hurt moment. She cried, then silent tears that ran down her cheeks. Is there any way to fix this? To be a family again? We already are a family, Marina replied. But it's a different family now. A family that learned painful lessons about loyalty, about gratitude, about the true meaning of love. For the next few hours we talked honestly. Camila listened without interrupting while we explained exactly how much she had hurt us. We listened while she explained how the fantasy of Hector had filled a void she didn't even know she had, and how the reality of his betrayal had been devastating. I've decided to keep the Castillo last name, she said. Eventually, Sebastian and I talked about it. When we have children, they'll carry Castillo too, because that's what we are, a Castillo family. Those words healed something in me that I didn't know was still broken. It wasn't instant, it wasn't magical, but it was a beginning. Today, a year after the wedding, Camila and I have monthly lunches. Just the two of us. We talk about her work, about her plans with Sebastian, about her hopes for the future. The wound hasn't healed completely. It probably never will entirely, but it has formed a scar that reminds us of what we almost lost and what we fought to get back. Marina and Camila have their own relationship in reconstruction, full of honest conversations and new healthy boundaries. We're not the family we were before. We're something new, something forged in pain, but stronger for it. Hector never reappeared. Camila says she doesn't care anymore, that she finally understood that chasing ghosts only leaves you empty, that real family isn't the one you dream of, but the one you build day by day with effort and love. When I think about everything that happened, about the betrayal and the pain, about the public humiliation of that wedding, I still feel a pang in my heart. But I also feel something else. Gratitude. Gratitude because that crisis forced us all to face difficult truths. Gratitude because Camila learned the lesson before repeating the same mistakes with her own children. Gratitude because in the end, true love survived. Last week, Camila called me excitedly. She and Sebastian are expecting their first child. A boy, she told me, her voice trembling. And we want his middle name to be Roberto. If you're okay with that. I was speechless for a moment. Then I replied, It would be an honor. Dad, she said, and there were no qualifiers, no distinctions anymore. Thank you for never giving up on me, even when I gave up on you. As I hang up the phone, Marina looks at me with that smile I've known for so many years. Family is complicated, she says. Yes, I reply, taking her hand, but it's worth fighting for. And that's my truth. Blood can create connections, but it's love, daily sacrifice, constant presence that creates a true family. And that lesson, although it costs tears and pain to learn, is one we all finally understand. Have you ever had to set boundaries with someone you love? Have you been in a situation where you had to choose between your dignity and keeping family peace? I'd love to read your experience in the comments. Thanks for joining me on this story. If it moved you, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the wonderful channel. See you in the next one.